short and wide isn't that bad. Back in this era, phones were small. Now we have phones that are too big to be a phone and too small to be a tablet. Solid mind here, and today we are looking at the Nokia Lumia 1020. Is this worth buying in 2025? When I was younger, this is the phone I wanted. Whenever I got like a Samsung, I would always try and get launches that would look like the Lumia 1020. But let's find out, should you buy it in 2025?
Stage shutter button in the correct position. Apple. It had a short and fat AMOLED display, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It ran Windows Phone 8 and then later 8.1. And of course, it has a huge smartphone camera sensor that demolished the competition with a proper Xenon flash too.
Yeah, that was a big game changer when the Lumia 1020 came out. The flash and the camera, it was like, oh, this is really good. Because back in that era, a lot of point and shoot cameras came out, like those compact, tiny travel cameras. And this felt like, hold on, is this basically a camera with a phone attached to it? That's why it became so popular.
Have to start the Lumia 1020 video by talking about its ridiculous camera. It's a 41 megapixel setup that outputs either 38 megapixel stills in full res mode or 5 megapixel shots that were sort of like an early version of pixel binning. It's a technique that all of our smartphones tend to use today by combining data from neighboring pixels.
The thing that, is hard to understand is this phone came out more than 10 years ago. So even back in 2016, like when this phone was out, it was a massive game changer. So I know the Samsung, as you can see here, had another option. The Samsung was more like a camera than this, but this was such a massive game changer. The flash alone was bigger than some flashes on SLRs. So it was good.
Unlike the Galaxy camera that I checked out more recently, this could actually capture raw photos in the DNG format, and though the app is pretty basic, it's got everything you realistically needed back in 2013. With the
2013. So RAW, what is RAW? It's not wrestling. RAW is the way of capturing photos. So when you get a picture, you either get them in PNG or JPEG. There's many formats of photos. RAW is basically getting the picture before it's been edited. So this is like the most basic way of getting a picture where you can decide the type of photo you want. So in professional settings, most people take raw pictures because then you can go and adjust the brightness, adjust the whites, the blacks, the greens, the yellows, adjust the vignette, adjust the contrast, saturation, adjust the hue. You can adjust. It's basically color grading a picture. The issue is if you color grade a picture that's already been color graded, it's not as sharp, it's not as good. You can do it, but when you get a raw picture, it's basically saying, I've done nothing to it pretty much. So do whatever you want, which means you now get that same quality without having a already compressed image. And raw pictures are normally much bigger in size because it's like we're capturing all the data and here you go, have it.
The ability to shoot 1080p video at 30 FPS too. Annoyingly, when I reset this phone, there was suddenly no more advanced options for changing the DNG format or manually selecting the resolution, as the Nokia imaging camera apps like Pro Camera were missing. And since I produce 4 long form videos a week, I quite frankly don't have time to troubleshoot and manually flash software on this puppy, which is really frustrating because once I'd reset the phone, I googled the issues and seemingly a lot of people have similar problems. So the images you're about to see are from the latest Windows Phone 8.1 build on the Lumia 1020. But before we get to those stills, there is one massive catch to taking photos with the 1020, and that is the insane amount of time it takes to capture an image. We're talking from the moment you hit the shutter button, you could be waiting 3 to 5 seconds, although
that is a long time. Shutter lag is a big problem in phones, but 3 to 4 seconds is a long time. Let's say you're capturing something moving quickly, you could miss it.
So, to be quite honest, it feels more like 5 to 7 business days if I'm totally real. I'm not sure this is due to the ancient Snapdragon S4 Plus processor and 2 gigs of RAM, which is roughly what you'll find in the Galaxy S3 at the time and HTC One X, but yeah, wacky. Also, it makes a really strange noise when you turn the phone on and boot up the camera.
So that sounds, so I've been a photographer for a long time, and I think they're trying to mimic the sound of a DSLR. A DSLR has a mirror in the camera that flips up to make the sensor exposed, take a picture. So maybe they're artificially adding the noise of a DSLR into a phone camera. Why? I don't know, but that makes sense.
And it also likes to use the light to gain focus before snapping the shot, even if your flash is turned off in the settings. And yeah, the Lumia 1020 can capture some fantastic...
That's not a bad idea, where you use a light to get focus, turn the light off and then get the picture. Like, that's not bad. Like, I wish phones had that option where you can like turn the flash on for focus, but nowadays phones are smart enough to not need a lot of light to focus sharply. But for a phone this old, it must be a game changer.
Fantastic images for its age. As long as the subject isn't moving and you have half decent light, the 11-year-old device is able to take images that look half decent in 2024, with regards to dynamic range, stabilization and tonal capture. The plucky Lumia fat, and not in the way that you think. Sure, it's got a pretty bulgy camera bump and it's pretty sizable from a side profile, but what I really mean is that the 1020 is short and wide. It's a 3:5 aspect ratio.
Short and wide isn't that bad. You know, back in this era, phones were small. Now we have phones that are too big to be a phone and too small to be a tablet. Like, the phones like that exist where they're just a bit too large for a phone, but they're almost the size of a tablet, but too small of a tablet, if you get what I mean. But so back in this era, like, it was a very awkward aspect ratio, but still looks good.
Screen 1280 by 768. It's a stout little thing and it actually feels fantastic in the hand. Typing on the keyboard is far easier than the 4.5-inch screen size figure would actually suggest, because it's wearing a lot of that being so wide. It's round, it's ergonomic, and came in this gorgeous yellow colour. I actually think the colour and the design might be one of the best things about the Lumia.
It is striking. And you know what's crazy? Like, if you look at the OnePlus 13 or the Oppo phones that are out there, they kind of have gotten back to like a design like this with a massive camera bump, like a massive circular bump. So this design, I wouldn't say it's timeless, but I would say that it's still in the past existed.
Lumia 1020. It's just such a gorgeous piece of design. It looks so unique, so interesting. It's a conversation starter for sure if you take one of these out with you at night. As you can imagine, since the phone is running Windows Phone 8.1, it is not a viable daily smartphone for pretty much anybody other than those who never touch the internet. The Microsoft Store doesn't work, meaning you can't download or really update anything natively on the 1020, and while you are treated to the ever wonderful Microsoft Edge browser, it's particularly slow and navigating anything can be an absolute chore.
That's the only issue, is that this is a Microsoft phone, and yes, back in that era it was golden, but as of today, Android is a much better platform regarding applications. So if this run on a different OS, then we'll be able to sideload easier and better. I know you can still sideload on this phone and you can even download Android on this phone, but that was one big downside.
A cold reminder that the phone...
If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments, because I feel like this didn't come with Android, but I don't mind you guys educating me in the comments below. Anyway, let's end the video here. Should you buy the Nokia Lumia 1020? No, don't buy it. Don't buy it. But what I will say is this phone was a really good phone for the time. Not in terms of the features of the phone, but the camera aspect. You bought this phone because you really wanted a nice, compact point and shoot camera that also had a phone attached to it. That's why you buy this Nokia Lumia 1020. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Did you have it? Would you buy it? I would say don't, but that's just my opinion. Please like, comment, subscribe, and peace.